Well, it doesn't get any better than that to start a Saturday afternoon here in South Africa. As you can see, we have the beautiful Shadaloo up in a marula tree, and so pretty easy way to start the day, I would say. We kind of had a very quick track. It lasted all of about 2 seconds, where we kind of picked up her tracks on top of Wiem and Brent's tracks from this morning's walk and looked up into the marula tree, and there, sitting pretty, is the beautiful Shadaloo. So how cool is this? Such an epic way to start. Now, before I get too excited about it all, my name is Tristan, and on camera I've got Wiem with me, and I'm sure Wiem is a very happy man already that we found some spots, as am I, and so it's been a spotty day, that's for sure. Now, it seems as though Shadaloo has kind of spent most of the day here. She was spotted at one point during the day, and it sounded like she was on a different tree, and then we kind of followed her tracks a little bit and found her here. So it's going to be very, very cool to see what she gets up to this afternoon. You can see she's kind of peering out, so she's just starting to wake up. Now remember, we are live, so we would like to hear from all of you. If you are as excited as I am about having spots to start the afternoon, then we want to hear from you, and you can do that on hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or on the YouTube chat. Now, I'm hoping that she is going to start stirring. And there we go. She might just reposition herself. She's got a little itchy neck. One thing that is very, very obvious from Shadaloo standing up in the tree is that she is not pregnant. So we've been kind of thinking maybe she is, maybe she isn't, just obviously because she mated with Hukumuri a while ago, and she should start showing around now, and she's not at all. So she's not I don't think the last mating session with Hukumuri was successful, but you never know. Maybe that's why he is here. I believe that Wiem was saying she was following his tracks all the way. Now it looks like she's going to come down and start waking up. So perfect timing. Or are you going to go to another branch, girl? I'm going to reposition ourselves just quickly because we've got the sun and it's really kind of hammering poor Viem's ability to do much because of the sky being so white. Puma, if you look at her, absolutely fine. She doesn't look as though there's a scratch on her after the fight. She's got one little scratch over her nose, and it looks as though she's otherwise absolutely perfect, which is really, really good. And so hopefully she's climbing fine, she's walking fine, she seems to be her normal self, so that's all good news. Hello, girl. You are very pretty, you know that. She's a seriously good-looking cat, and are you going to come lie on the branch for us and be a poser? It looks that way. It looks like she's going to come where there's a bit of sun, just to make sure that we can see just how pretty she is. But if you look at her, very little signs of injuries anywhere. I don't know if this fight was as serious as it was kind of first made out to be. And funny enough, I do think it was Thandi in the fight. Now, I know this goes against what I was saying the other day when I had Thandi. And the reason why I say that is because last night, was the first time that I got a look at photos of Thandi from the sighting that we had, and she has a massive cut inside her ear. It's very difficult to see it, but on her left ear, Thandi had this big cut down there, and she's got a cut on her tummy. And I believe when the guys were telling me about the sighting, that the leopard that ran away, or that got out of the way when that male arrived, had a cut on her ear, and was bleeding from the ear and from the stomach. And so that must have been Thandi. Well, I think it's Thandi that was in that fight, given that there are cuts within her ear, and the one in her ear is quite big and quite sort of long. And so I'll try and find a photo of it and try and kind of show you guys tomorrow. I don't have them with me, but maybe some of you want to go back and look at some of the screenshots from not yesterday, the day before, and you'll have a look and just look inside her left ear and you'll notice them. But she seems to be watching something. I don't know what it is. You can see she's very hot. It is a warm afternoon. It's kind of been a hot day, and so I don't know how long she's going to sit out in the sun like that. I think she might find herself another branch just to go and lie in and just kind of keep the shade and stay as cool as possible. It's why she's breathing so heavily. Now, I know it's been a hot day because we've actually had a day of fun, actually. We spent most of our day out in the communities. It is Djuma's 25th anniversary today, and so we went out and we had a bit of festivities, and we actually have left Brent still out and about. Anyway, we're going to stay with Shadaloo. We're going to see what she gets up to. I think she's going to come down the tree, so we're going to just watch her dismount. Oh, girl, that wasn't very ladylike. Didn't go that well. So while she kind of strides off through the long green grass and we see where she heads to, let's send you across to Taylor McCurdy, who hopefully will welcome you with maybe a little bit more grace than Shadaloo coming out of a tree.
Well, Tristan, I do have the tendency to fall face first into things, so I won't be climbing down any trees. However, Waterbuck won't be doing that either unless he's taken up a tree by a leopard, which we're hopefully going to find today. But what a beautiful specimen. And I bet that you can all guess that we have arrived at Chitwa, one of my favorite places to come and do a safari on. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is Fergus. And like I said, we're driving around on Chitwa, hoping to find lots of spots and all sorts of other wonderful animals today. If you have just joined us for the first time, a big welcome. And, well, enjoy your new addiction of Safari Live. Once you start watching, you can't stop. So you can ask us questions, hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or you can also talk to us via the YouTube chat. So first up was the waterbuck, and now we're going to just dip down into the Mulunini over here, because I'm pretty sure that Tristan said, not Hosana, Tingana was down here. I do see some kudu though, but I know what Tingana's like. He lays flat in the grass and doesn't even twitch an ear. But maybe a kudu would entice him to move around. So we'll just go down in here very slowly. Said he wasn't far away. He could have moved as well. It's been a very hot day. The sun moves, so it changes, of course, where the shadows are being casted. And, casted? That's not a word. I'm making up words today. Oh, alright, well I'm going to have a little scratch around here to see if I can find Tingana. And off we go to Steve, who is going to be baking in the tent.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a glorious Catterday. Let's see what we can do for this afternoon. Grab yourself a cup of coffee and come and join us. Myself, I'm Steve Falconbridge, joined by Senzo Mkize on the camera. And we're going to be doing some marvelous information for you here in the tent. We have the internet, we have a microscope, we've got flowers, we've got insects, we've got all sorts of weird and wonderful little things to try and enhance your viewing experience this afternoon. Remember to hashtag Safari Live, send through your questions and comments. And on that note, let's go over to Shadaloo.
Is walking right past us, as you're going to see shortly. She's going to pass my head, so I'm going to try and get out of the way and through past the front of the car. So she's just on a slow little amble. She's marking her territory a little bit. She's been to the loo, she's scent marked on one of the marulas, and now she's just kind of walking off. The problem is that she's going to be quite difficult to follow in the direction she's going. She's going to go into quite thick, dense areas, and one thing I do like about Shadaloo is her tail. And thank you very much, Shadaloo, you've just popped your tail up right on cue. I was going to say that she has this big, thick, fluffy tail. It's very, very cool to see. Her tail is much bigger than what we see on Thandi and some of the other females around. It's very cool. And so she shoved it up in the air as we were talking about it. I don't know why. There's nothing alarm calling at her, really. So it was perfect on cue for her to do so. Thank you, Shadaloo. That was very kind of you. I was hoping you were going to do that. And she's still doing it. She's like, look at my tail. Look at how cool it is. I want to show you my tail. And kind of walking along. Now she's dropping it down. So Jason, Shadaloo is another one of our young females. So we have two young females at the moment. Kuchava, who's about just over 4, and Shadaloo, who's just approaching 4 years old. So they kind of are very similar, and they are going to be the future queens. Even though both of them are still kind of settling a little bit into their respective areas and are still not quite 100% dominant, they are definitely going to be the future queens of this area. And by the looks of things, Shadaloo is going to take this sort of western side. She's almost as though she's decided that it doesn't matter what Shadow and Thandi want, this is going to be her tree. Now, funny enough, and some of you might remember a few months ago that there was a interaction or altercation with Scotty and Shadow and Thandi in a tree. Now, I don't know if any of you remember that, but that tree that Shadaloo is sitting in right now is the exact same tree that Shadow and Thandi had a bit of a dispute with that kill in the tree itself. So it just goes to show where she actually is in relation. We're just off quarantine at the moment, and so she's now moving back westwards and heading, hopefully, we'll stay in our area for the afternoon, but she is heading back towards the sort of western side. You can see she's on the road now and just kind of striding along. Exactly, Pearl, you're right. She's sticking her tail up as if to say, look boys, the grass is long, so you need to follow this big white tail, and you can go that way and we'll be able to keep sight of her. So she's being very obliging. But look at her tail, it really is very fluffy. It's kind of got this big fluffy white end to it. It reminds me a little bit of Inchila's tail as well. Inchila had the same thing, hence her name being Inchila, which means tail. But very, very cool. Now hopefully she doesn't just stride like this, because otherwise we're not going to have her much longer, because these power lines go straight to Triple M. So while I keep up with her and see where she goes, let's send you back across to Taylor.
Well, Tristan, let's hope she does a turnaround. We've got a very nervous kudu cow. You can see that nose is working overtime, wiggling around, trying to smell all sorts of things. And those ears are also listening out. I suspect that Tingana is somewhere around here, just from her behavior. She's very uncertain about something. So we did a big loop around because I didn't want to chase her away. And hopefully she's going to help us find Tingana. And that's important when you are out on safari, is let the animals do the talking. We might not be able to understand them, but you can read their body language. It does take a couple of years, though. I mean, we're all still learning and trying to understand what different, movements and things mean. But to me, this clearly says that she's very suspicious about whatever's going on over here. She's been stepping very lightly, not racing around, and they've got an exceptional sense of smell. And if Tingana is here, he's not going to be able to hear him, because I'd bet that he's sitting fast asleep. Maybe he doesn't even know that she's here. That also wouldn't surprise me. But that nose is going, something's not right. Look at that. That's amazing to see. I'd love to know what's going through her brain right now. That sort of thought process. And a beautiful mane as well going down her neck, something that we don't often get to sort of see. Because, well, kudu don't often stand still and out in the open like this. A lovely sighting. She's on her own. She's got no other members around her. She is lucky, though. She's got a couple of birds flying around her. You just saw the go-away bird that landed behind her. So that'll definitely be on her side. If Tingana does make one false move, that bird is going to start alarming. He must just be in the bush here. But we know Tingana, he'll probably be fast asleep, and then we will come back a little bit later and try and find him as well. Now, Ghost Rider, I think what you're referring to when you say, what is that movement called when they lift their noses and their sort of lips up? I think that was the gist of it. Sorry, I had some break up there. I think you're referring to the phlegm and grimace. So the phlegm and grimace is the outward expression of when an animal, typically it's normally males that will do it, they'll test urine from females, whether it's directly as she's, urinating or if it's on the ground. And they basically pass those scents through the Jacobson organ. And essentially the information that they're getting from that is the estrogen levels that are in that urine. But what's going on right now is not the phlegm and grimace, is not that outward expression where they curl their top lip all the way up. This is just her nose working really well. I don't think I've ever been able to see this up close. I mean, we watch it from a distance sometimes. There we go. You know what? There is a perfect shrub that I just can't see behind, and I have a suspicion that's maybe where Tingana is. I wonder if he's just curled himself up and around. That's the bush that I'm talking about. That just looks suspicious, don't you think? It's like it was placed there perfectly for Tingana to hide behind. But I'm not going to go around and get too close to her, because then she's going to run away. And if Tingana is there and he's sitting patiently waiting for her to make the wrong move, well then we don't want to ruin it for him. And we couldn't see anything from the other side either. It's just the grass is really long. It's perfect around here. But I do think that he had a big meal not so long ago. He had a kill here by room 11, if I'm not mistaken. And Tristan actually said he's looking lovely. He's looking so fat, which is good because we've been waiting for him to get a decent meal. So maybe he will catch a kudu. That would be a very, very nice meal to have. I think we're going to move away now and go and try and find Kuchava. We'll come back to see if Tingana is around here a little bit later. Off we go to Tristan, who is still trying to keep up with Shadaloo.
We are still with Shadaloo, but we are probably now not even 10 minutes from her crossing over the boundary if she keeps walking the way that she is. She's just marching straight west. Every now and then she stops and sniffs on the edges, but otherwise she's on a mission to head back to the western side, which is not ideal for us. I was hoping she was going to relax. Please go up the termite mound. Go up the termite mound. Be a good girl. Are you going to go up the termite mound? Is she placing bets, Wiem, up the termite mound or not? What do you think? You think yes, eh? Nope. I think she's going to turn. There she comes back. So it's beautiful when she walks through that long grass, though. Very, very pretty. And still bobbing about. Typical little leopard sort of walk. The way that they sort of swing their hips and kind of move. They have this little sort of, little strut that they've got. I always love it when you're kind of following a leopard. And they have this kind of little sort of, I don't know what the word is. Maybe a sway of the hips is probably the best way to describe it. But she's hungry. She must be looking for food, and I'm seriously surprised she's walking in this heat. It is very warm, and it's hot and uncomfortable, and that's why I'm surprised that she's up and moving. She had such a nice spot on top of that tree that I would have thought maybe, just maybe, she was going to try and find herself a nice kind of comfy branch and just lie down again. But it seems as though she's interested in something. Yes, go that way. Go that way, girl. That's the right way. Off you go. Head south. So if she keeps going this way, it's going to be really, really good for us, because this is going deeper. Well, southwards is going still inside Djuma. West is not a good idea. West we don't want to see, because if she goes west, then we're going to struggle to keep up with her. But what has she spotted? Seems like she spotted something. I can't see anything. Let's just have a little look. It's kind of facing back in, which is good. You see the nose is to the air every now and then. She's sniffing about. What are you smelling? She's sniffed all over the place. She hasn't marked anywhere, which means I don't think there's another leopard. She hasn't phlegm and grimaced. I think maybe she's smelt some sort of prey item, and that's what she's busy following. Maybe some warthogs have moved through here, maybe a steenbok or a duiker, something like that has walked in this area, and maybe that's what she's trying to sniff out. You see, look at her nose. You see how she's sniffing. So that's not so. If it was another leopard, she would be phlegm and grimacing, and she would have a situation where she's trying to kind of mark on top, whereas this is not like that at all. This is more behavior where she's trying to maybe find a certain animal that she wants to try and hunt. And look how she's very careful about the way she walks. Very different behavior to a scent marking leopard. So even though she's smelling, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's another leopard around. It means more that she's probably in hunt mode. And like I was saying, she is looking as though she could do with a meal, and so I'm pretty sure she's hungry, and that's why she's going to start moving through and hopefully take us into this thicket where we're going to start seeing her maybe trying to chase after some sort of prey animal. That's maybe what she spotted from the tree, is something walking down this road, and that's why she came this way. So, Karen, leopards don't really have a smell, to be honest. When they walk past you like this, when they're very close in proximity to where you are, there really is no smell that you pick up at all. In fact, the grasses and the leaves of the trees smell more than a leopard does. The only time you find a leopard really smelling is if it's fed off a quite rotten carcass, or if it goes to the toilet next to you, or if it obviously sprays its urine. Then you get that more kind of popcorn scent to everything. So we're going to sit with Shadaloo. We're going to see what she does. Look, it's good. She's turned. She's going back towards sort of east, which is good news for us. So while we sit with her and see what she's actually busy with, let's go to Taylor, who's got a special surprise for you.
We do. Tingana, fast asleep, up in a little open patch, not too far away from where that kudu was, which is quite cool. Not as close, though, as we initially thought. He's obviously been moving around, trying to keep nice and cool, and I bet that sand is lovely and will be doing him a world of good, especially if he's all big and fat after devouring whatever he was eating at room number 3. I don't know what they tend to serve for in-room dining, but there is the kudu cow, and she knows. She knows he's here. I just don't think she can see him. She's so jumpy. But he's not interested in her. Maybe Tingana doesn't even know that there's a kudu here, because it's like she's been tiptoeing around. I suppose they always tiptoe, hey? But being very, very careful. And if you are on your own like this, which is unusual, I wonder why this... And I don't think it's an old kudu cow. I think she's relatively young. I don't know why she's on her own. They typically live in family groups. I mean, it's not unusual to see the leopard on his own. We know that both sexes, male and female, mark and defend territories. Not particularly social, unless your name, I suppose, is Tingana. And then you have Hosana following you around, which is weird. Interesting behavior. So, Karen, you're actually just wondering why that Kudu was on her own. Well, there we go. I don't know why. I don't know if she's been separated from her herd. But, I mean, it could be a great meal, potentially, for Tingana. And this is the view that we do have of him at the moment. He's tucked away. I don't think there's any ways we're going to get up there. It's also not very nice to drive up on the edge of embankments. Oh, okay. Well, Tingana's fast asleep. We're probably going to move on. Shadaloo is, well, picked up the pace.
So Shadaloo just went sprinting off down the road back the way we've just come, and I can't see what she's chasing. I don't know if there's maybe warthogs here or a steenbok or something like that, but she went shooting off down the road, and she's just cut in behind this termite mound again. There she is there, so she's stopping and watching. I have no idea what she actually saw, but she went running full speed kind of down the road to this termite mound and then stopped behind the termite mound as if she was expecting something to run out from behind it and grab it. So I don't know what exactly she's hunting, but she is hunting something. She's definitely on the trail of something. You can see, look at how perked up her ears are. She's super aware of what's going on around her at the moment. So she's looking, she's listening, and she'll even be using the senses from her whiskers and her nose to be able to try and pick up exactly where this animal's gone. But whatever it was, it obviously came bolting this side towards this area. Now she's going back to the area that she first kind of came from again. Shadaloo, what's going on, girl? Where are you off to, and what are you actually hunting, is my question. I'm going to reverse back first because that's going to be easier for me to get in on the other side of this termite mound. There's a very big game path here that's really nice for bushwalks, and so it's much easier to follow this than to go bushwhacking through all of the other stuff that she's going towards. She should pop out right in front of me on this path somewhere. Just got to now work out where exactly she was. Problem is also if she runs again, it's going to be difficult to see her. Oh, there she is. She's in the tree. So she's not going to pop out on the path if she's up there. She's being a typical posing cat. Let's get you round, Vim. Now, there's a few branches, unfortunately, that are obscuring the view, but isn't that epic? So she's up on this fallen over tree. She's giving herself a little height, just checking what's going on, where this potential prey animal has moved, and how she's going to go about getting towards where it is. The good news is that it seems as though whatever it is that she's watching is deeper inside Djuma, so it's taking her in rather than away, which is fantastic for us, and hopefully she's going to keep kind of forging her way southeast rather than heading west. And I'm 100% sure that she spotted this from the tree itself. So she came down the tree and she knew exactly where she was going, and then she got into a sniffing sort of mode, and I think she worked out that something was moving this way, and then she came this side. Remember, from up in a tree, your field of view is much more than down on the ground. So Liz, Shadaloo first started to come into this northern part of the Sabi Sands. Remember, she comes from Londolozi, Ottawa area. So we started to see her for the first time at the end of middle of 2016, sorry. And so she was around in 2016, and then she went sort of around Arethusa, back towards Londo's, hung around that area, and then she really kind of has established herself over the course of 2017, and only now in 2018, the beginning of 2018, as she really started to push into the Djuma side. And it's because there's been this kind of disappearance of shadow in this section and the arrival of Hukamuri, and that's allowed her to move where Hukamuri is moving and pushed her deeper in towards Djuma. And that's why we're seeing so much more of her over the course of the last few months than we did at the sort of end of last year or middle of last year. Now that Tingana's kind of pushed off, Hukamuri's deeper here, it's helping her to be able to kind of establish herself in this area. Isn't she beautiful, though? We're very lucky that we have so many of these beautiful females. Now, Kathy, her spot pattern, as far as I remember, is 4.5, I think. Let's just double check it, but I think it's a 4.5. I know some of you will remember it offhand. She's definitely got 5 on her left-hand side, so it's 4 and then 1 spot on top. And then I can't remember her right side. Her right side might be 5 or 4. I think it's 4.5. Somebody will be able to correct me. Hashtag Safari Live. And I know James, Michael, a lot of you will know. Now there's a big spider web here, which I don't really want to break, but unfortunately there's no other way around. Sorry, Evildy. There's no spider on it, which is at least good news. So let's just do that and wrap that around. So that's okay. Right, so now let's try and get in here. Where did she go? I don't know where she went. Right, we're going to try and find her again. We can try to see where she went. While I do that, let's send you back across to Steve.
Thank you, Tristan. I hope you do manage to relocate in that beautiful cat. I know there's been some discussion about the organ of Jacobson, and for those of you out there who are not too familiar with it, let's discuss it a little bit further. I've got a number of skulls in front of me. First of all, I'm going to grab this leopard skull from the bottom. I'm only looking at the top, and if I turn that over, do you see those 2 holes in the roof of the mouth there? That is essentially the organ. Those are the holes that when they lift up their front lip, you've all seen that grimace before, when they lift up that front lip, and that organ itself is basically just situated somewhere up there in the nasal cavity as a different area, because you can imagine here's the nasal cavity and here's the organ of Jacobson in the top of the mouth. You find them in elephant, you find them in a huge number of animals, and I'm going to show you really quickly how surprising it actually can be. Here is the skull of, I think, a cheetah, or it might be a jackal. I'm not 100% sure. You can see once again the 2 holes. Padraig, now that is a question for debate. He wants to know if humans have the equivalent of the organ of Jacobson. That is something that someone's proven, but 200 more people have proven incorrect. So it is a theory out there that we do have one, but there's also theory that we don't, and there's no actual proven record to collaborate with what that guy suggested. But this is where the surprise comes in. First of all, here we've got a small, looks like a small mongoose, probably a white-tailed mongoose. Oop, that is gelled together. Let's do the next one. There, can you see the organ again? Very, very easily seen in the roof of the mouth. But what I want to show you, which is the surprise here is the skull of a vervet monkey and a baboon. And what do you guys think? Do you think they've got one? We're going to quickly go over to Tristan.
So she's still running after what looks like a steenbok. We got a brief view of the steenbok bounding away and Shadaloo running after it again. Now she's just in front here, so Gotta try and get back towards the road again. So that's what she's chasing. It had to be something like that. It was something that was small and boundy. The way that she was moving about had to suggest that we were kind of following a rather nippy animal. So not something like an impala just walking. She wasn't going into low stalk mode. She was more kind of trying to bound through the grass a little bit. So she should be on the road itself. There we go. She's on the road again, which is good news. And so she's going back now the way we've just come. So it just goes to show that she spotted that steenbok, I'm 100% sure, from the tree itself. And now she's, look, nose to the ground. She's trying to work out where did the steenbok go by scent. Isn't this amazing? Now, normally you think cats hunt solely by sight and by maybe hearing, but she's hunting via her nose, which is absolutely incredible. It goes to show you just how sophisticated their sense of smell is. It's far better than we give them credit for. They obviously are able to pick up small little particles of sort of scent. Sorry, girl, did I drive over a leaf? I'm sorry. Where we would never pick up anything. So that's what she's busy trying to smell for. You'll find that every now and then she'll stop and listen and look. Now, the steenbok didn't see her. The steenbok, unfortunately, just kind of went bounding through the grass, and she was then after it, trying to chase it. So, Emma, cats will not see in color like we do. It's a sort of monotone kind of color that they've got in, well, not color, but a monotone effect. And the reason why is that we have two cells in our eyes. So we have cones and rods. Rods are light cells, so they are cells that help us with being able to see in darker conditions. And cones are cells that help us with color. So they be able to differentiate different colors, and that's how we see this vibrant world that we're in. So we have a very high sort of rod and cone count together. They're both kind of very equal, whereas a leopard has very few cones in their eyes. They have mostly rods, and so that allows them to be able to see in very dark conditions. In times when it's really hard for us to see in the middle of the night, they're seeing almost like daylight because they have that many more sort of cells of the light collecting kind, and so they have a lot more rods in their eyes, and that helps them to see, but they have to sacrifice color for that. The other thing is that these guys, unlike us as humans or sort of animals like baboons or monkeys or anything like that, they don't actually need to have a sight that is in color or full vivid color, because their prey animals are prey animals. So it is, as long as it's kind of an animal, they can hunt it. Whereas with something like us, or like a baboon or a monkey, they have to feed off things like fruit, and they need to see when things are ripe, and so they need to be able to have color to be able to see what's going on. Now I'm just going to reverse back. There's a nice little open gap here that I'm hoping she's going to walk kind of parallel with us. See, look, she's still sniffing. I think she's lost the scent now, so she's trying to work out exactly which way the steenbok ran. So if I sit like this, theoretically the steenbok should have come this way. It came this way. I know it came over the road, so she's probably just trying to work out where exactly the steenbok went. The other thing is that there are generally more than one steenbok together. You very seldom see just the one on its own. The two are normally together as they are monogamous, and so maybe one ran this way, but she's still got her heart set on a different individual that might be that side. But she's kind of she's coming back towards where we are, still with her nose to the ground. There's something just ran. Did you see? Something just ran out of the corner of my eye, and she looked like she was going to go bolting afterwards, but I didn't see where she went. Did you see her, Vildy? Okay, 2 o'clock. I just saw something bolt at my sort of 3 o'clock and go. So this is the problem with this time of the year when you've got such long grass. You really struggle to be able to find what's going on. Good, we're going to try and see if we can find Shadaloo again. We can see what she's up to, and while we do that, send you back across to Taylor and a sleepy Tingana.
Oh, cool. I'm just going to apologize right off of the bat. I'm just doing some off-roading here, but like through drainage lines. I just need to watch where I'm going, otherwise I'm going to tip the car over. We're trying to find Kuchava and her little one. I'm in the area where Tristan had left her, but like you've just seen Xidulu disappear. If there's any leopard that's laying flat around here, we're never going to spot them. But I also don't know exactly where Tristan was. I mean, he was off one of the drainage lines. We're scanning and looking around. We're hoping to not A, tip the car over, because that would not be fun, and B, well, try finding the leopard. Wait. I'm sure she's around here somewhere. No, hello, Saladi. Okay, one of our new viewers, you're wondering if we're safe out here? Yeah, of course we are. We are indeed. That's why we've just got to take care to, of course, watch where you're going and things like that. I promise you, you're going to have more of a chance of having an accident in the vehicle than any of the animals doing anything to you. That's why we are all trained in terms of animal behavior. And we can watch what the animals do, we can see what they're feeling, if they're unhappy with us. And if any of the animals show at any point that they're uncomfortable with our presence, we normally will move away and leave them alone. So we are, which is really cool. But the animals also so used to the cars here. I mean, the Sabi sand has been going for over 30 years, even longer than that. And these animals have been experiencing vehicles. Some of these animals don't even know life without a car. Drainage lines, trying to concentrate here, so I do apologize if you get any breakup. Wait. Okay, cool. It seems as though our signal's a bit dicey here, so sorry about that. While we try and find Kuchava, off you go. Back to Steve.
Fantastic. Sorry about the difficulties there with Taylor. Maybe she will make it a trifecta of cats today, or will that be 4 if she finds a Kuchava with a cub. So, I left a pondering with you moments before you left us, and here we have got the vervet monkey, and we've got the baboon, which we know are cousins. They are our cousins. And now, those of you out there, what do you think? Do they have an organ of Jacobson in the top of their mouth? Shall we reveal the vervet monkey? Ta-da! There it is. You can clearly see the holes behind there. So they do. And then once again, with the baboon, look at that. Okay, so ID Master, we see baboons not as regularly as I would have expected. They tend to like more riparian vegetation with sort of open landscape in and around that area. So the tall, big trees along sort of permanent river courses for their nesting and their roosting sites. And then they need really nice open areas for feeding and foraging. And this area of the Sabi sands is quite thick and quite dense, but they do move through, but we don't see them as often as we do see vervet monkeys, which like to come and visit our camp. But we don't have too much of a problem with them. So I hope that answers your question. But a marvelous amount of skulls here, but we are going to spend some time this afternoon. I've got some wonderful little things there to look at under the microscope. So if you'll give me a moment to climb inside. Here I come. We're tenting this afternoon. And I'm going to go to the microscope because, first of all, before we go to the microscope, here we have got a buffalo. And on the buffalo's horns, you can see these sacs, which are known as a horn borer moth. And the sac is made up of cocoon, silk, and excrement from the bone itself. They actually break down the horn. So if we can go over to the microscope, please, Nix, we can have a look at this cocoon. Look at that. You can clearly see on the left where the silk is. So inside, the moth itself would have been a larvae and is feeding on the horn itself. And then they pupate with inside this, eating the horn. And sorry about the wind is blowing, it's moving it around. But you can see the cocoon sort of coming out on the left-hand side there. And so they grow inside here as a larvae, and then they'll come out as a moth. It's one of those reasons that when people hunt, sadly as it is, whenever they get a carcass like this, they will immediately cover the horn in some form of deworming or insecticide to prevent these horn borer moths from really damaging what is potentially a trophy animal, because this happened over a very short period of time, and there'll be nothing left within a couple of months as those horn borer moths do their thing. And this buffalo is living quite comfortably in the tent, forming a very nice feature. So, let's go back over to Tristan and the Xidulu female.
Well, Shadaloo is, I think, lying down in this grass. She was moving and then she just decided to plop down again. So I think she's decided she can't find the scent anymore of where this animal ran to. So let's just try and reposition ourselves. Oh, there she is, in the shade. Shame, girl, is it hot? No wonder you've been running around like a hooligan in this heat. No wonder you're hot. There she is, just taking a bit of a breather. You can see she's panting quite a bit at the moment, and she's exerted a bit of energy in this heat, so I'm not surprised. So, Robert, a longer tail can be of advantage. I mean, obviously it gets to a point where, you know, it gets too long, it might not be too much of a help and more of a hindrance. But remember that a longer tail is going to help with stabilizing this animal. As it's turning, as it's climbing, it's acting as a counterbalance in a way. And it's why cheetah have long, flattened tails, is that it does help them a lot with the way that they move and to be able to turn at high speed. And for a leopard, a long tail is vitally important for them climbing. So if a leopard had to lose its tail, climbing would be a lot harder. You see how she grooms? She's a funny cat. She's busy grooming one leg while rubbing her head with the other. Look, there we go. she's doing that trick. It's like when you have to pat your head and rub your tummy at the same time. That's what she's doing. She's showing us that she's multi-skilled, and so very clever. Well done, Shadaloo. But back to the long tails. A longer tail will be effective. Oh yes, Nikki, she's a girl. That's right. She can do two things at once. I forgot. How silly of me. Why would I ever doubt that for 1 second? Anyway, she's showing a bit of flexibility too. It looks okay. Obviously, our girls don't groom their tummies, but it looks like a yoga class outside FC every now and then when they kind of get into these ridiculous poses, and I don't know how the girls actually contort themselves into some of the things that they do, and they kind of fold themselves over and all kinds of other things, much like what Shadaloo's doing now, is just get themselves into a massive tangle by stretching necks and shoulders and legs, and they all just go in different directions. It almost looks like spaghetti sometimes when I walk out of FC and there's yoga going on. There's just hands and legs in all kinds of places that they shouldn't really look like they should come from. But anyway, seems to be effective. The girls seem to enjoy it, and I know that even David, one of our cam-ops, not that he's a girl, enjoys a bit of yoga from time to time as well. But it's now time for a thorough grooming. Nikki says enough about our yoga. Sorry, Nikki. I didn't mean to delve into it too much. It just came up. It was because you mentioned girls. Look, she's picking off a tick. Did you see that? So there was a tick there. Look, she's biting the tick off. That's amazing. That was very cool. She actually got rid of it. It's gone now. I don't know what she did with it. Did you swallow it? I can't imagine it would be tasty. I suppose the tick is just filled with her blood anyway, so it's not really much taste to it. Aiden, who's 6 years old. Yes, Aiden, leopards do get tired from walking so much. So what she's doing now is she's catching her breath. Aiden, have you ever run around and run for a long period of time until you feel like you can't breathe anymore and that you're very, very tired? That's how it is for this leopard. So she's run around now trying to chase a steenbok, and she's now kind of trying to catch her breath and rest a little bit because she is tired and she's very hot. That's why her mouth is open and she's kind of breathing heavily. She's panting because she's very warm. The lucky thing for her is that there's a really nice cold wind today, which is going to make her kind of get cooler quicker. But she still is very hot. You can see, look at how fast her tummy is moving as she breathes. So lots and lots of panting, trying to cool that body down, and that's because she's tired now from running around. So, Marcus, yes, leopards do get hairballs and bone balls and all kinds of other things that they can't digest, hooves and the likes, and so every now and then you'll see them cough the things up and sort of regurgitate. It's not that often that they do it, but they can do it, and they'll often eat grass to trigger that process. So you sometimes see them eating grass, and then all of a sudden they'll kind of regurgitate bone and hair and all kinds of other stuff that comes up. All right, Shadaloo, you caught your breath now. It's time to hunt again. Seems that way. There's a nice big termite mound coming up, so I'm hoping, knowing her, that she's going to go and position herself on that termite mound itself. Right. Liam, what do you think? Back the same way we came or forward? I think forward might be not too bad. Let's try it through here. Looks like we're fairly kind of clear through this way. Now, I'm just trying to get that out the way so that we can just cruise through here. Poor Rusty has been put through the mill today and has been kind of ground up. And so while I try and get through all of this and see if Xidulu does go atop the mound, let's send you back across to Taylor, who I think is headed back to Tingana.
We have indeed. We had no luck with Kuchava. I think she's probably either just sat down and moving along that drainage line. But it is so incredibly thick there. I think, I wish we kind of had the thermal cameras to stop and just pinpoint her laying in the grass somewhere. Anyways, so Tingana has moved. He's moved a whole of about 80 meters. And our kudu friend was still lurking about. Every now and then we can see her popping out. She's now hiding behind a tree. But I'm surprised we didn't hear her alarming because we weren't far away. Maybe Tingana just wasn't interested and didn't sort of show any interest at all. There she is. And in the kudu, and strutted just past her. Or maybe she just would have stood quite still. But maybe she comes back. I don't know why she's hanging around this leopard. Especially if he's come out and he's in the open now. And we've had him in this spot before. Just thankfully he's not laying in as tall grass. Remember that one day we sat with him for about 2 hours. We could just see a couple of spots, and every now and then his ear would twitch. But not always. Now, speaking of Kuchava, Child of the Universe, I think it's probably Tingana that would have fathered Kuchava's cub. I know Quarantine was also seen mating with her once upon a time, but I think the last leopard that was seen was indeed Tingana. So I think we'll just have to see it grows up. I mean, like it is with humans, they do carry on certain, genetics and sort of appearances. I mean, we can see that I think Mvula is definitely the father of Tamba. Those big ears, those blue eyes, that's not like Tingana at all. And then you look at Hosana and you can see he's almost like a splitting image of Hosana or of Tingana, a young Tingana. Actually, does anybody have any really young pictures of Tingana? I don't think I've ever seen any of him. I would love to have seen him like back in the day. Yeah, and Nikki's saying that you think they only found Tingana when he was about 6, which is quite cool. It would be nice to see if we can track down some. Ali's just arrived in the sighting, and Ali. I was having a good laugh. Sorry, I called Ali into the sighting. She's just started her safari with her guests. You can see Tingana going, "What is she doing?" And Ali's just driving, having a great old time. And I'm like, no, he's there, in the flat in the grass. Easy to miss. Very, very easy to miss a leopard when they lay like this. Oh, so funny. Oh, so if any of you do have any photos of when he was really, really young, you can tag me in it. Tag all of us in it. Hashtag Safari Live. It'd be quite nice to have a little look. You can see he doesn't care though. He didn't even lift his head. He just sort of sits there like, oh, I'm just trying to have a snooze. Now he's going to listen to our conversations about him. No, Tingana, I know your style though. You're just going to lay here flat. And then you're just going to get up at some point, probably to go and have a drink. So we'll try and sit with him for as long as possible. So David, no, the mothers don't normally hang around the fathers of the cub for protection. Obviously, this case that we've been seeing is interesting with the way that Hosana behaves around his dad. Unusual. I've never seen it before. Perhaps it happens more often, and we just haven't documented it as much. Like I said, the animals don't read the books that we write about them. It's the best saying in the bush, so it doesn't matter what you read. I promise you right now, there will come a day that that animal will do something completely different. It happens so often, all the time. So, I mean, we've seen Karula, we've seen Shongile, Hosana feeding on a kill with Tingana before. We didn't get to see it, but it was happening on Little Gari. I mean, how bizarre is that an entire family of leopards, if you will, were eating dinner together, which is pretty spectacular to see, especially because of the high density of leopards. I don't know, I thought that they would be a little bit more aggressive to one another, wanting to hold on to their territories around here. But that doesn't seem to be the case. But again, I think Tingana's personality has changed a lot in the last little while as he's become very relaxed. Now that he doesn't have to march around from point A to B, and when I say point A to B, it's like Londolozi, and then all of a sudden he'll be in Buffelshoek the next day. I mean, some male leopards have to march a serious territory like that. Mashabeni did that one night. One night he was seen in Londolozi the afternoon before. The next morning he was down at Bush Lodge on Sabi, which is a huge distance. And he would do that regularly. Now that he doesn't need to do that, he's become very relaxed and obviously very tolerant. I think he knows he's not the top dog anymore. And he needs to just be a little bit careful and perhaps sort of take a step back rather than being defensive right off the bat. He'll rather, like I said, take a step back and go, okay, it's fine. You can come on in here and you can have the spot. I'll just look after my little place. Now, speaking speaking of fighting and being defensive, Schmidt-Luca, the dewlap is very important to leopards when fighting, because females don't get them. Females do fight too. But when it's a territorial dispute, that saggy skin is going to help protect the neck. So it's like the equivalent of a lion's mane. That mane helps protect the throat and all the vital organs. The dewlap is going to do the same thing. Because when they do fight with one another, they are going for the face, they're going for around the neck, all those different types of things. And if, you can throttle the other one, we're probably going to... I think there'd be a lot more leopard deaths if males didn't have big dewlaps. So it is super important. And when Mvula was looking good, my goodness, he was impressive. He had a lovely dewlap. Tingana is also quite big when he's as fat as he can be, which I'm excited to see him when he stands up, because we haven't been seeing him looking too good. So we'll see his dewlap quite nicely. And it just depends on what they've eaten or how much they've eaten. That will also just help pronounce that dewlap. When they're quite thin, it tends to not look like much. Okay, well, Steve is still in the tent. I hope he's not baking away. Let's go and see if he's found anything interesting on those skulls.
Taylor, you need to be in the kitchen to bake. I'm only joking. It's not that hot in the tent, actually. We've managed to put a fan on there, which is not making too much noise. It's quite marvelous. And we're going to go to the microscope, because I've got a very pretty beetle underneath the microscope. And let's have a look and see what we can see on this, what's known as a tenebrinoid beetle, or a talkie beetle. If we can go to Microscope next. There we go. Have a look at that. There's his head. Try and just get him to move around. He is alive still, folks. I have not injured him in any way. Just trying to focus in on his eye there. Ooh, there's the eye. Sorry about that. Focus. Very gentle. Can you see the legs? Little funny little hairs on there. Quite marvelous, actually. He was busy grooming himself before. He had a little look at the camera, or at the microscope. Well, we're going to quickly go to Tristan.
Next quick link. Now, whatever's happening, I'm not sure what she's stalking, but she's in full stalk mode at the moment. Look at how carefully she's placing her feet, and it's amazing. She went from walking quite casually to almost stiff as a board, and she's now just slowly creeping through this bush. And you can see, look at how she's delicate about the way she places her feet. She really is in a situation where she's trying to keep as quiet as possible and stealthily move through this grass in order to get closer to whatever she's stalking. I cannot see a single thing at all, so I have no idea what she's looking at. Almost looks like she might get ready to pounce any minute now. Well, good afternoon and welcome to very sunny South Africa. You might think we are just staring at a bush and that not much is going on, but behind there, look, she's chasing. So it's a leopard chasing a duiker. Unfortunately, she missed it though. That was so close. So she was chasing the duiker, and there goes the duiker. That was millimeters away from her catching it. Now, my name is Tristan. On camera, I've got VM, and this is an interactive experience. So we want to hear from all of you. Ask as many questions as you want and post them in the comment section below. But this is just crazy. She was kind of just all of a sudden started stalking, and then she just chased this duiker, and the duiker exploded out of the bush. Unfortunately, though, she's missed. And this is exactly how leopards work, is that they are ambush predators. So they'll try and jump onto the animal and get it before it's able to run and be able to kind of sort of get it right there. They don't have the speed to chase something like a little antelope like that because it's just too fast for them. It moves too quick. They're not like a cheetah or a lion that's able to catch those kind of things. Now, Bobby, this is a leopard known as the Xidulu female. She is a fairly new female leopard to our western side, and she's been coming in more and more and more over the course of the last few months. And so she's a leopard that we've been seeing a lot now, and she's very, very cool. She's one of our favorites, and many people love her. She's a beautiful female and active. She often hunting. It's a warm afternoon at the moment. It's hot. I wouldn't have expected a leopard to be moving, and when we found her, she was actually lounging in a big tree, just resting, and then all of a sudden she popped down onto the ground and started hunting. And so she's in full hunting mode at the moment, trying to look for food. Now, Jeff, you say she's beautiful. She is a very, very pretty girl. She's a young female, so she's yet to have her first litter of cubs. She's not even 4 years old yet. Well, she's approaching 4. And so she's still kind of yet to have her first cubs, and she's still youthful, but incredibly pretty. Now, she should be somewhere closer. Here she is. She's right in front of me, so I just need to get through this gap. So I believe a lot of you were saying that was absolutely incredible. So there she is. She's still kind of on the hunt and still looking around for more prey animals, because where there's one duiker, there's often a second, given that they are territorially dominant pairs that live together. So maybe she'll continue to hunt through the afternoon. Now, we're going to carry on following her, but you can catch us all on Safari Live. We do this twice a day. Remember, just Google Safari Live and you'll be able to find our different platforms that we broadcast. And so it's been an absolute pleasure. I hope that you enjoyed that exhilarating chase, and we'll see you all next time. How crazy was that? That was so cool. Like, she just went from 0 to 100 in 2 seconds, and then was right on top of it. And how she missed that duiker, I don't know. It was so close. And Vildi, you're an absolute champion. As Nikki's just said in my ear, to follow that is not easy at all. That happens in a blink of an eye. It looks almost like slow motion when you watch it back, but in real life, in real time, to follow that is a serious skill. And so Fergus the other day with that new male leopard hunting warthogs, and Vildi today on point. So our cameramen, we do really have very good cameramen that film all of this stuff. So well done, Vildi. That was epic. It's amazing though. Isn't that very cool? I thought it was incredible, and she was so close. That duiker just jumped out of the way. She was almost on its bum, and if she had just gotten a paw onto it, that would have been tickets for that duiker, and she would have been onto it in a flash. So hopefully she's going to continue to hunt through the course of the afternoon. She's providing absolutely epic sort of sighting this afternoon in the hot weather. And so often we get asked, when is a peak time of activity for leopards? Well, this you can see right now, any time of the day. A leopard is an opportunistic animal. When it feels like there's an opportunity to hunt, it will take it. It doesn't matter if it's bright, hot sunshine or middle of the night. They will hunt when they feel like they need to, and when they feel like there's an opportunity to do so. And particularly now in this, when the grass is as long as this, they can still afford to hunt during the course of the day. You can see that duiker didn't even see her coming, which is pretty amazing. So, Christine, you were in fact was it Steve, sorry, were asking exactly this, as to whether leopards are mostly by day or by night in terms of hunting. So, Christine, I was right the first time. Sorry, Christine. But, so leopards, like I was just referring to, are very opportunistic. They, middle of the day, middle of the night, but generally their most active periods are around dusk and dawn. So that's when they like to move around, in that kind of twilight period. A lot of their hunting is just before the sun rises or just after the sun sets, and they go into a situation. Is she stalking again? It looks like she might be stalking again. Hold on. She's kind of got her... No, she's just sniffing now. I thought she had gone bolt straight again. But she's definitely still on the hunt for something this afternoon. She's not going to stop, I don't think, until she catches herself a meal, whether that be a little scrub hare or something more substantial like a duiker or a steenbok remains to be seen. But let's see how we go. It's going to be interesting nonetheless. She's moving around a lot and is going to hopefully be still on our side for some time to come. She's still moving around on our side and going deeper back now into Djuma, which is very, very good. Amazing though. We have been thoroughly spoiled with spots today, so if you didn't catch us this morning, we had an epic morning where Taylor, obviously, she's went and followed up now on Tingana, and we had Kuchava and Cub. So theoretically, we've had 4 leopards this in less than 24 and 12 hours, which is absolutely insane. So we've been thoroughly spoiled today, and we've really kind of been given amazing sightings from a point of view that all of the 4 leopards that we've seen have actually been up to something. So Tingana this morning was watching things and looking. Obviously, Kuchava and Cub this morning was very cool, and now Shadaloo is just putting on an absolute show. Now, I don't think she's on the trail of anything just yet. She's still looking around and still sniffing, so we're going to keep up with her, and hopefully we'll get another hunt coming our way. But while we do that, let's send you back across to Steve in the tent, who I'm sure is up to something. He's generally got all kinds of tricks up his sleeve.
How marvelous is that? I think we're going to keep looking at things under the microscope, because while we do that, the leopard just keeps hunting and hunting and hunting, and we'll just sit here and we'll just wait. It's all good. I do apologize, ladies and gentlemen, for wearing my hat inside. I know it is quite rude, but my microphone is attached to the roof of my hat, and that is how we're able to communicate with you. So, back to the tenebrinoid or tok-toki beetle, and the name tok-toki comes by the fact that these beetles, when they walk around, they'll tap their bottom on the ground, and it's an indication of how they communicate with others of their species, males and females. So next, if we can go back to the microscope, please, I would like to look once again at, look how beautiful the joining is here. This is the seam, and you see the lice on the right there, very small lice along the back. There's all sorts of funny, weird little critters living on the back of this beetle, and you can see that seam where the sort of the body joins the abdomen, and the lice is busy going in there right now, but is completely sealed there. And those sort of like hairs, I've never really looked at a beetle like this under the microscope, but those hairs are kind of acting sort of like a barrier, kind of like a joining stop. You know how a knight's armor would probably join, but it would be completely airtight. Yeah, it is moving as it breathes, because what these tenebrinoid beetles have done is, if you can look down the line, there's sort of a lateral line running right. You can see that right line. That is where the wings would normally come out. That would be the elytra, which splits open and then allows the wings to come out. But what tok-tokis or tenebrinoid beetles have done is they've evolved to get rid of flight, so they've sealed that elytra completely so that they can sort of hold oxygen inside themselves and also limit the amount of moisture that they use. So by using flight, you use a huge amount of moisture. You give off oxygen, and you lose all sorts of ability to maintain that moisture. And so what these beetles have done, and if we come up a bit close onto him now, we'll be able to see. I've got him just in a little container here. He's having a little bit of a rest, and you can see the shape that he's got there. And so what this beetle will do is they're very well adapted in the desert biome. And what they're capable of doing is doing exactly what it's doing now, the way I'm holding it. They'll actually bask on the sand dunes and collect fog. Are we going to go back to Kachava?
See how her tail goes like So we were just talking about her starting to stalk again, and she's gotten so much more serious. She kind of was peeking over the grass, and now she's kind of relaxed a bit again. It's interesting with her, when she starts to get very intrigued in something, her tail goes dead straight and kind of points like an arrow, almost like she's a pointer dog. And you see, look, she starts to slow down and she starts to step very gingerly. So I think she's located something else to try and chase. And this block is obviously just full of all kinds of small antelopes for her to go after. So everything from steenbok and duikers to scrubhares, but she's definitely moving incredibly slow, inching her way forward. So I'm sure she's found herself another prey item to try and stalk, and she's just worming her way as close as she can to whatever she thinks is there. So it's incredible the frequency at which she's chasing animals at the moment. It just goes to show you how much work leopards go through to get a kill. I mean, we often find them with a kill and you think, oh, they must have just chased it. But you can see we've already had 2 failed hunts where she's chased 2 different animals. She's chased a steenbok and a duiker, and now she seems to have latched on to something else. But I'm going to try and just reposition ourselves by giving a very wide berth. So I'm going to try, well, she's coming back now, so I don't know, maybe she lost what she was just trying to stalk. Let's just try and get around him. I'm going to be a bit careful here because Archie the aardvark has made a big mess here and had lots and lots of holes all over the place. Ooh. So Hayden, who's 6 years old, difficult to say. Leopards are very, very good at hunting in anything, really, but I would say the thicker the vegetation, the easier for a leopard. It's the more they can hide away, the more that there's spots kind of blend in, and particularly in areas where you've got lots of trees and lots of shade, Hayden, that's going to be a really good place for a leopard to go. But there's aardvark holes everywhere here, so we are trying to just negotiate this without disappearing into one of them. So I was saying Archie the aardvark, that's what I've named our aardvark that we saw last night, is Archie. So he's obviously been very busy here and digging all over the place, causing a bit of havoc, and then his friends the elephants have come along and expanded on that and probably dug up some roots. So it doesn't seem like she's still got anything, but she's kind of got onto a game path now and walking down, but definitely intent on hunting this afternoon and trying to find food. So, Patrick, a leopard doesn't have to actually eat every single day in order to survive. They are a little bit different to a lot of animals, and remember that when they kill something, often it weighs anywhere between, obviously they eat insects and those kind of things and can be very small, but most of their kills are anywhere between 20 kilograms and 90 kilograms, and so that's a lot of food, and they'll mass eat for a good sort of 2-3 days, which will make them incredibly full. They'll be so saturated with food that they can then last 2-3-4 days without feeding again. So they don't actually require food every single day in order to survive. So it's difficult to put a figure on how much they need to eat in order to survive every single day. They have a situation where they can kind of... what's she doing now? Now she's kind of coming back towards us again. Still in that very stalky mode. She's got her tail dead straight, and this is what I was saying, when she decides she wants to stalk, her tail goes straight. There you go, look at that, dead straight again, and now it's just starting to curl as she moves. Really weird that she does it. It's the first leopard I've ever noticed this on. Most leopards the tail drops very low down, but hers almost gets dead straight, as though she's figuring things out. And look how slowly she's walking. It's absolute lesson in the mastery of a leopard and how they hunt. Slow and steady, and listen and smell and try and kind of be as stealthy as possible. It's incredible to watch. They have amazing patience, a leopard, and the way that they go about it is very, very cool. Good. Now we're going to stay with her. We're going to try to keep up with her. I'm pretty sure this is not going to be the last stalking session we have this afternoon. And so while we keep up with her, let's send you back across to Taylor and Tingana, and I wonder if he's going to get up to some stalking this afternoon.
I hope so. I really hope he does. He hasn't done much except he's turned around now. He rolled about. He was fighting with the grass a little bit. I think there must have been some pieces that were tickling his ear. He was not fond of that. And now he's rolled over and is facing the other side. I don't think this spot is going to stay shady for very long, so hopefully the light will continue to, well, hit his face, and then that will encourage him to move, maybe go have a drink. I think he's been resting up for most of the day, although when you are his age, I suppose sleep is quite important, eh? And he'll be enjoying it. I'm sorry, there are so many flies trying to sit around me, Ferg, and I'm trying to sit as still as I can, but they're a nightmare. And I'm surprised Tingana is actually not fluttering his ears as much. Sorry, I'm not trying to... I just don't know why they have to sit on you all the time. I mean, they've got everywhere else to go and sit. Insist on hanging around your nose and your mouth. What a nightmare. Okay. What I'll do for you, Nem and First Lady, is while you look there, I'm going to start drawing something. As I think it might help you. I'm so sorry that I don't have my map with me today. It was very silly. I took all my stuff out of the car. It would have been easier if I just actually had a map. But yes, you're quite correct in thinking that leopard territories do overlap, and that is, of course, male and female territories will most certainly overlap. Do you know what we can actually do? Is maybe Steve will have a better opportunity while he's in the tent. Maybe he can start drawing up some of the leopard territories. I'm pretty sure there's an old map in one of those big pieces of paper that Tristan and Brent, or I've even drawn one before, because it's quite nice to see it on a big board rather than my small little piece of paper. So maybe we'll ask Steve if he wants to do that, and he can show you how they overlap. Obviously things have changed up quite a bit now, and Tingana used to move around and was the dominant male between Djuma, Torchwood, up in Buffelshoek. You know, there was obviously he'd bump into Gajima a couple of times. but he definitely made his presence more known than Djuma did. Then he had Mvula that used to be lurking around near Gowrie Gate. Oh my goodness, I'm going to die. These flies are so frustrating. I need to be one of those zapping, those tennis rackets. Then nothing will come near me. And then he would go down into Arethusa, where I'm sure he bumped heads a few times with the Anderson male. But the Anderson male has normally was on Londolozi, a little bit of Elephant Plains, but it's sort of since moved a little bit further north, if I'm not mistaken, away from those areas. And then he would also cover little Gowrie, Chitwa, and Vessels, Annette, Sturdies, all these smaller properties in between the bigger ones. So he had a huge area, and within his territory, he would pass through and see many, many different females. I mean, from Karula to Shadow to Tandi to Salahesh to, oh goodness, the young Ingridam female, she was also around. You know, just leopard after leopard after leopard, and Kanyeni, all of them. And then there are, of course, a couple of other males. Like Quarantine hadn't quite established himself just yet. I mean, he's still up and coming, although he must be looking like an absolute beast now. And he would hang around on sort of the Cheetah Plains side and pop onto Chitwa every now and then, and in Koro. And now Hukumuri has come in and stirred everything up, and now we're seeing, well, a huge changeover. Hosana's still hanging around. Tumba's definitely in the area somewhere too. I think he's just laying low at the moment. He's quite clever by staying hidden and not making his presence too well known. I think actually they were seeing Tumba on Elephant Plains, so he's actually moved a little bit further away, which is normally what leopards will do. They'll disperse. They'll either go further north, east, west, or south and try and find a gap. Hosana is taking a big chance by lingering around, but let's see. Maybe he's going to show us all and prove us all wrong. Maybe he's going to stay here. We'll have to wait and see. Only time will sort of reveal that. Sam, you are only 9 years old, and I love the question that you've just sent through, so please keep sending them on in. Now, the nice thing about cats is, and we're not talking about cheetah here, we're talking about, say, let's just talk about lions and leopards, as while they are hunting, they're able to retract their claws. See, lions and leopards don't use their claws in the same way that a cheetah will use them. A cheetah needs to have its claws out all the time, Samu, so that it can run. It's like studs in say, a sprinter, or spikes in a sprinter's athletic shoes, or studs on hockey boots or rugby boots. You know, it's going to help give you some traction. And that's what the claws do for a cheetah. And that's because they're running after their prey, whereas lions and leopards have to get really, really close to their prey to try and catch them. So when they're running, sometimes you can see their claws, but 90% of the time they're hidden away. They need to stay nice and sharp because that's what they use to hold on to their prey once they've caught it. And so they retract them back, whereas a cheetah can't do that. Cheetahs have got like feet like a dog. Their claws are out all the time. So that's quite cool. So that's why you see leopards and lions constantly scratching up on trees, on fallen logs, to help keep those nails nice and sharp. And then not only does it keep those nails nice and sharp, you know how sometimes when you cut your nails, there's little bits on the side that you have to trim really, really well. Then by clawing at the tree, that'll help get rid of all that old nail sheath. Because of course they keep growing. And that will get rid of it. And then it's good to strengthen the tendons in the feet too. Very nice. So my friend Steve Volvo in the tent has managed to pull out a map of sorts. I'm certain he's going to be showing you the leopard territories. And maybe you can even send him some screenshots of some of the older ones from back in the day. Let's go to him.
Thank you very much, Taylor. Did manage to find this. I was quickly trying to scratch them down on my map here. And I am the last person in the world at Djuma at the moment who actually knows or understands exactly the dynamics of the leopards that are going on. Tristan is a good one to ask, but I managed to find a map that someone has already done, and this is obviously the male leopards of Djuma. And for those of you who do not recognize the map, basically this is Djuma over here. That is the Djuma map, so I'm going to take that away, and you'll see that this is Djuma here. Here's Djuma, here's Buffelshoek to the north, Arethusa, Simbombili, Hoffman's and Little Gowrie, all those places that that Taylor was talking about just now. Vessels, places I've never heard of before. But so here we've got the Djuma male, kind of Buffelshoek up in the north, around Buffelshoek Dam and into Buffelshoek. And then this seems to be Hukumuri's new territory. He's covering an enormous portion of Djuma, and then all the way into Lower Gowrie, Hoffman's, and as far east as Elephant Plains, which is all the way over there in the west. And then there's Umfkomazi, who I have never heard of or seen before, who seems to be moving into this sort of area there. But obviously these are very rough, folks. There's not that many people that are actually traversing Buffelshoek to give you really accurate ideas of what's going on. And I'm going to guess that Mr. Q is quarantined. Correct me if I'm wrong. But he seems to have this entire eastern section, Torchwood, all the way down to a net, and I'm not sure what CP stands for. Nkoro is over here. And so that is an enormous piece. Cheetah Plains. Thanks very much, Nix. Cheetah Plains, all the way down on this side. So, and then the Kunyuma male seems to be down here in the south, Mala Mala. That's Quarantine's brother, down in Mala Mala. And then Mvula seems to have moved out. He's hanging out down here somewhere close to Londolozi. And then the Anderson male is also sort of in this area. So I hope that gives you kind of an idea. From my personal opinion, what I've seen with the female leopards is we've now got Shadaloo. It seems to be occupying sort of this western section here of Djuma, and then into the west. Tundi seems to own the eastern section of Djuma itself, and then how far into Torchwood she goes, it's very hard to say. But neither of them seem to be going too far south. And that's it as far as I know with regards to the female leopards in the area. So I hope that answers a few questions. And Taylor was throwing all sorts of names out there. I hope that gives you a bit more of an understanding of where we are. Oh, Christina, leopards are not that easy to track. It's just the fact that the road network here is so elaborate that on the roads when they walk and they stalk, they're much easier to track. And because they're very relaxed and we've been following them and tracking them for so long, they're easy to find. Well, relatively for people like Tristan and Herbie. But cheetah essentially like more open plains. If you do find cheetah tracks, they are actually quite easy to find, but they tend to occur in sort of areas that are much more open. Djuma, Chitwa, areas like that are very, very dense with regards to the vegetation, and so the cheetah seems to have moved further, either up into the Manuleti, which is north of us, or down into Cheetah Plains, where they have done some elaborate bush clearing there, and you get much more sort of open spaces where the cheetahs feel a little bit more relaxed with regards to safety. Okay, I'll link myself. No, it looks like I'm going to link Tristan.
Now, I don't know, cheetah are fairly, I think the track is fairly easy to see, but it's just they tend to walk a lot further than most of the other animals. In fact, they're far more mobile during the day than what you see with something like a leopard or a lion. So for me, they're harder to track than leopards. Also, I just don't think like a cheetah. I've had so little experience with them that I struggle to work out where they're going to go, whereas something like a leopard, luckily spends a lot of time tracking them and lions too, so it makes it much easier to track both of those for me than it is to track a cheetah, although the guys that work with cheetahs regularly say that they're quite easy to track. So it just depends, I suppose, on your experience that you have and kind of areas that you know and individuals that you get to know. It's also very hard to track leopards you don't know in an area that you don't know, so we're just lucky here that we get to know these animals quite well and figure out kind of patterns that they like to walk. But Shadaloo is still busy with hunting. She would have been an absolute nightmare to have tracked today. You would have really struggled to track her. She's been round and round and round in circles all over the place, and we are right in the middle of a block now where I don't even think, if I even were able to explain to somebody where to get to, I don't think I would be able to. We literally are slap bang in the middle of this block, and it would take a long time for people to find us, I think. Patrick, I mean, yes, we can't be naive and think that we don't pose a distraction to animals. When a leopard's hunting in thick bush and you hit a branch and it goes clang, that's certainly going to make a prey animal's ears perk up, and it's also going to distract that leopard for 2 seconds. So we can't be naive, and it's why we try, when leopards are hunting or when any animal's hunting, is try and give them as much space as possible. And as soon as you see that they're stalking, to turn off the car immediately, so that you give that animal a chance, both sides of the sort of equation. So you're not just covering the the sound of a leopard moving. You're also not attracting attention via your movements. And so we try and be as ethical as possible, but like I say, we can't be that naive that we think us driving around doesn't distract animals from time to time. It most certainly does. And even though you try your very best not to do that and not to give an animal a situation where it's being distracted, every now and then it does happen. And I've seen it by mistake sometimes. I've seen it in a situation where no one really means it. It's just, unfortunately, the way that we follow animals here, and because we have to in some respects, it would be very difficult to view animals here without following them off-road. It would be very tough. You've got to have a situation where you're going to chase things, unfortunately, by mistake, particularly in grass like this. The grass is so long, I could literally drive now and a scrub hare could go bounding out, or a steenbok or a daker or something like that could move through this area and I wouldn't even know. So, we try our very best not to. Like I say, we try and be as ethical as possible, but sometimes it's not always that easy. Now, talking about ethical, room and slack that I don't even know where she's gone. Where is she now? Bim, you see her? Where did she go? No, I've lost her. Oh no, there she is. She's right here. The nice thing is she's not running around. She's kind of ambling, which the problem is she's going in every direction. Are you going to come back and say hi, Shadaloo? She's a gorgeous female though. Look at her. She's got very, very pretty eyes. Beautiful cat. Hello, my girl. I've thoroughly enjoyed this sighting. I'm pretty sure you guys at home have as well. It's just been the most epic kind of display from a leopard of how they go about finding food. Kyle Green, yeah, leopards, they're a nuisance. They always just want to grab the tongs and take over from the braai master. You've got to kind of tell them no and give them the double tap with the tongs to tell them to back off and stop taking over the braai and stop taking over the barbecue. No, I'm just kidding. They're not like that at all. Funny enough, I have actually had leopards come to a barbecue a few times just to come and see what's going on, not because they want to actually sort of get involved or, eat the food off the braai. It's more that they're smelling stuff and they just come and investigate. And there's often with these relaxed cats like this, they'll come within, I don't even know what the distance would be, but sometimes they're in. What are you doing, girl? Are you coming to say hello? Look at how close she's walking. Hello, my girl. What are you doing? Isn't that amazing? How cool is that? So cool. She has this fascination with cars that I have no idea where it comes from, but she's kind of sometimes just walks straight up to them. You can see she had lots of room to walk around, and she chose to walk literally right where we were, which is absolutely phenomenal. Very cool. So I've actually had the most epic sightings of this female. The last time I saw her, we had the time where she thought Batman was a piece of steak and wanted to eat her, but eat him. No, he didn't want to eat him. He was just very interested in what Craig was doing, and the reflection, I think, of her in the lens. But she's a very curious cat, and I suppose the youthful side. But back to the kind of braai stories. Like I say, I've had a lot of leopards show up, and in fact, there was a leopard once in the western sector. And that used to come, and sometimes if there was a barbecue or a braai, would come and sit the distance that we are away from Shadaloo now and just watch the whole night. So no matter what you did, she'd just sit there and watch what was going on, and then would wander off and then come back again. And it was almost like just wanted to see what was happening, why there was this gathering of people. And every now and then, kind of in boma dinners that I've had with guests. So boma dinner is generally a dinner that's outside, close to the lodge, under the stars, or a bush dinner. Leopards are animals that you do have regularly coming through those and coming to investigate what's happening. We used to have Salaesh at Simambili all the time, coming through our bush dinners and coming just to have a little hello and see what was going on. So they are curious animals. When there's some change in their environment, they often do. Now, there's a beautiful big marula that's very close by, so I just want to see if she might pop up that marula. She's heading straight towards it. You can see she's kind of just walking towards that marula itself. So let's see, maybe she's going to go up, and she's looking up into the tree. Let's have a look. Little look. I think she's going to go. There we go. There we go. How's that? That was a good call. Come on. So she's gone up into the tree itself. She loves a tree, this cat. She's going to go more. There we go. Up she goes. and she's going to settle. Let's just try and get a nice view of where she's gone. Very, very, very cool when they get up into trees like this. So worth waiting for. I know she's being accommodating today, Nikki. Everything I kind of have asked her to do, she's done, which has been quite delightful, really. I've thoroughly enjoyed her being so cooperative. It's not every day a leopard is as cooperative as Shadaloo is being to us today. Wiem, is that good for you? I know the sky is a little bit white, but at least she's nicely kind of in the fork of that tree. Isn't that amazing? That is, for me, the best sight. I love seeing leopards in trees. It's one of those amazing things, and we were talking about it before drive started. Nikki was saying every time she drives to work, she always checks all those big marulas around quarantine in the hope that she's going to spot a spotty cat. Yes, we're talking about you in a tree. Isn't that wonderful? Look at that. She is beautiful. And it is one of those things, until you see a leopard in a tree, like this, you really, it takes your breath away. It's amazing to watch a big cat sitting in a tree, and especially a big marula tree, because when I was growing up as a kid, things like seeing a leopard in a tree was a dream. It wasn't something that you got to see very often. Even if you went to the Kruger Park, you wouldn't get to see those things. And then coming to a place like the Sabi Sands and being able to see this on a regular basis is something that I honestly don't think I ever take for granted. It's the one thing with leopards I don't take for granted. There's something about one of them draped over a branch or up in a tree that just evokes, I don't know, some sort of emotion from a childhood where it was kind of always that desire to see it. And I don't think anybody that works out here doesn't want to see a leopard lounging in a tree. It's just something about it that makes everybody kind of quite happy. Yeah, let's reposition quickly. She's facing nicely into the sun now, so we should get a really nice sort of, although the sun's disappeared a little bit, so that's not going to help much, but let's just try. Problem is this side. Are you giving your bum to me now, Shadaloo? Okay, let's try and see. So she's just going to sit. How's that, Vim? Right, so it's been a leopard madness day, and it sounds like the madness is continuing, because there is another set of spots approaching Tingana.
Oh, and I bet you can all guess who it is. It's our golden-eyed boy that we've been talking about all afternoon. Just like Tristan is in love with Xidulu. Oh, I think Tingana is also gorgeous, but Hosana is easily the most attractive male leopard I think I've ever seen. What are you staring at? Tumba. I like Tumba too, Ferg. I do, because he's got blue eyes. I'm a sucker for anything with blue eyes. But but Hosana's beautiful golden eyes and just his whole look about him is absolutely amazing. Let's see if he's realized that that Dad is around. I think he must smell him. He's been laying about here. That's what the Franklins were alarming at. So earlier, maybe about 5 minutes ago, I said I can hear Franklins alarming in the distance, and I can still hear them, and that's obviously where Hosana has come from. Boy, you're looking in the wrong way. Dad's here. What have you seen? Have you seen our lone kudu girl? Because Nais was looking there. Oh, that's stunning. What have you seen, boy? There's also lots of antelope and things moving around, so maybe he's distracted slightly. We'll see if he if he realizes that Tingana is here. Catherine, yes, most certainly all animals can identify themselves with their family members. Most of the time it's probably scent or sound. Mom calls you, you know what your mom's voice sounds like. So that definitely plays a part in it. And, I mean, Hosana's been interacting with Tingana for his entire life. So, of course, he knows who he is and feels quite comfortable with him and being around. I think he's actually seen that kudu cow. Do you know that, Ferg? I think that's what he's looking at. That was, obviously we had that amazing sighting in the beginning. We got to watch that kudu sort of sniffing about. Yes. Hosana, I don't know what you've seen in the tree. You're going to go up the jackalberry. But come around here. Come and say hello. He's a lovely boy. Hey, look at those eyes. Beautiful dappled lighting on his face. And I'm quite happy to see that Hosana's not hasty with his decisions, because that will also land him in a bit of trouble. It is good that he sits and he listens and he smells and he observes, because when he was younger, obviously very inexperienced, he just, like I suppose most of us when we are young, we don't realize the dangers out there, and you just sort of jump on into them. So it's nice to see him just not running up to Tingana. Tingana doesn't know he's here, though. Patrick, yep, you're quite right. Leopards are more nomadic. It's because they're constantly on the go. They're moving around quite a bit. Like I said, male leopards travel huge distances, massive distances. I mean, so do male lions. I suppose any male big cat typically on the move and can move quite far away from where they were born. So maybe not necessarily the females. The females tend to stay within the same area. As we know, if a leopardess has cubs and they are girls, she'll actually try and open up a bit of a space for her cubs to eventually live around her. And it's like what we saw with Kruger, and then Thandi and Shadow, who are daughters who are around. And then we're starting to see, sadly, Shongile has not been sighted for a very long time, so we obviously think that she has passed on. Something must have happened, whether it was the fight with Thandi that took her out. No one will never know the answer to that, I'm afraid. It's just another one of the mysteries of the bush, and there are many mysteries in the bush. It's the same thing with the disappearance of Kruger. One day she was there, the next day she wasn't. We still will never know what happened. So they will typically stay around here. So I suppose male lions, male leopards are fairly nomadic. Yeah, he's seen a waterback. That's what I just saw walk past. We can't see it anymore. It's far away now. Now, Tom, both lions and leopards are territorial. Obviously in the Mara we had a great demonstration of how the females were fairly territorial too, and we're actually seeing scent marking quite a bit, whereas they typically just have like sort of a home range. But their territories seem to be more intense than I've ever seen down here in South Africa. And like I said, I've actually never seen lionesses scent marking before. I'm sure I just haven't been at the right place at the right time, but they do definitely do that. So we actively see more leopards sort of being more territorial, both male and female, whether it's with vocalizations as well as then scent marking, urine. Also, they've got glands in their cheeks that you often see them rubbing up against on trees, on branches, all these different types of things. So definitely I'd go with leopards being a little bit more territorial, if anything, but both species do mark. I think he's maybe... Have you seen Tingana? Tingana has no idea what's going on. He's fast asleep. He hasn't even twitched to look around here. I mean, Hosana has come in fairly quietly. He's managed to avoid all the go-away birds. And I suppose, looking at young Hosana, he's quite sprightly. Hey, new coat, pink nose, golden eyes, very few scratches. He's just got a notch out of his left ear. So Mina Moo, I love it now that we've given you a nickname. I haven't noticed the leopard, or actually any of the animal coats fading sort of as they get older, and we've been looking at Tingana. I mean, he doesn't seem to have more grey now, or not that I can see, but they typically hold their colour fairly well, which is quite nice. Right, have a quick look. So this is where we are, and then this is Tingana. You can see no reaction whatsoever. Still fast asleep, still facing the other way. He hasn't even rolled back over. Just scratching around his head. Like I said, with Tingana, he just sits up, he yawns, and then he goes. He doesn't spend much time grooming himself, and that's evident. I mean, you can see he doesn't look like he's faded at all. I don't think so. And if he does give himself a proper groom, his coat will look lovely, but there's lots of ticks around. Perhaps now that he's had a decent meal, he'll maybe look after himself a bit better. He's definitely taken a back seat in terms of brushing his coat. Whereas you look at Hosana, and he has not got a hair out of place whatsoever. Now, Kuchava's also in the area. Kuchava was also sort of coming in this direction from what Tristan told me. Though Hosana might be listening out. I can still hear the odd Franklin in the distance, still making interesting sounds. Maybe that's what he's listening to now. But this is so cool. Only thing is, though, as you can imagine, the sighting just got infinitely more exciting. So there are going to be a lot of people that want to come in here. But we'll try and spend as much time as we can. We have been patient and watching him fast asleep. I feel like we've earned our spot here. Now, when leopards are born, obviously their spots seem to be a lot darker and their rosettes are closer together. And we've been lucky, we've seen 2 very young leopard cubs. And the other thing that they have is a bright pink nose. So Paula, the reason why some leopards have dark noses versus some having light noses, it's just when they're young, their noses are pink. Some of them will never lose that, so, that will stay with them throughout their entire life. Otherwise, typically with lions as well, as they start to get a little bit older, that nose starts to darken slightly. Sometimes it goes completely black, otherwise it can be patchy. Big yawn. His teeth are looking good. Remember Shongile actually had a little nick out of one of her canines. Oh, big stretch. When you see a leopard do that, sometimes I think to myself, I'm like, how is that a wild animal? I mean, they look just like house cats when they do that. Are you going to go up, boy? And see what he's going to do. I'm sure he's going to smell Tingana around the tree. What I might do is actually go back a bit, Ferg. Do you mind if... Oh, no, here he comes. I thought he was going to climb up the tree and then I was just going to make room for the other vehicle, but no, we're just going to sit tight. Let's see. Are you going to see Tingana? There we go. I'm watching Tingana as well. I don't know if he can hear. Hosana wasn't really moving quietly through the grass. See, patience. He's going to come right through here. Thinking, he's smelling, but he's not looking in Tingana's direction. He hasn't noticed him. Tingana doesn't know. I can just see Tingana. He's walking straight towards him. Oh, this is so cool. Be careful, boy. It's the front of our car. No, and he's going, ooh, someone's there. Who's that? Hosana, you are crazy. What happens if that wasn't Tingana? You'd be in a lot of trouble. I feel like Tingana's got to the point now where he's not even surprised anymore. He's just slinking off. Not actually going around. I think he's trying to figure out who's there. Tingana, put your head up. So I'm almost 100% certain that Hosana will know the smell of Tingana and vice versa. So perhaps that's why Tingana's not maybe reacting. He's going around, he's sneaking around the grass. Oh, he's a cheeky boy. You take big chances. Look, here he goes. I promise you, we are so lucky to be sitting watching things like this because this is not common. It's honestly the first time I've ever seen, a young male behaving like this. Whether it's because, look, here he comes. You can just see him coming around the bend there. He is so cheeky. You're just going to listen because they're making some sound. I agree with you, Nikki. I do think that that's exactly what's going on. This is incredible. You don't see this type of stuff, I promise you. Look, you can see Tingana looks not impressed. It's just like, leave me alone. Give me a break. I'm not supposed to be looking after you. That's your mom's job. And he just can't help himself. He really just can't help himself. And he's like, I'm just going to sit here with you. Don't scent mark in his face. That's a bit of an insult. Is he leaving a present? Oh, no, that's terrible. Yeah, hey? How rude is that? Can you believe it? You can't do that. You're lucky that he doesn't chase you away, Hosana. If any sons had ever done that to their fathers, they'd find themselves in a bit of trouble. Hey? Can you believe this cat? He is a clown. Look at him. Thank you very much, Dad. Left you a present. And just, I mean, Tingana's watching him. Hosana doesn't care. He's not watching his back. I mean, he's got his rear end completely facing him now. So this just shows you how comfortable they are with one another. This is pretty spectacular. I mean, you'd think that Hosana would be watching Tingana 100%, not taking his eyes off of him. Jeff Flowers, I agree with you. I mean, it's bizarre. You're looking at this, you're seeing two male leopards, one that's just over 2, the other that's reaching the end of his life. So you've got two ends of the spectrum here, interacting with one another. Well, Hosana is just walking around like he owns the place. So yeah, it's strange. It's an interesting, behavior that we're seeing. It is stunning light, eh? And he's just going to sit here. Tingana, I mean, you see his tail twitching every now and then. He's just like, oh, I don't know what to do. I've tried everything. I've moved away, and you're still following me. He's just got to the point where Tingana's chosen this really nice property called Chitwa to retire on, which is great. Tristan and I were having a laugh about it today. We were saying it's great. There's lots of food. There's nice lounges on the decks that you can sit at. There's a big lake. You can, maybe Tingana's going to take up some water sports. Perhaps he'll try canoeing, fishing maybe, a bit of bird watching. The birding is great around here. And all he wants is some peace and quiet. He lives in his little space. He doesn't go wandering. And now he's got Hosana bothering him. I suppose Hosana doesn't know any different, though, because he's interacted with him so many times. And Tingana has been so tolerant of him. So now he just thinks it's normal. I'm sure there's another leopard here. Or there's a raptor that's flown off, but the Franklins are going berserk again. And this is the area where, like I said, where Chitwa was making her way to here. Anyways, well, I don't know who I'm sending you off to, because I'm having a good chuckle at these two leopards, but it'll be fun wherever you go.
Unbelievable. We're just trying to show you beetles and flowers, and the leopards are just coming out of the woodwork. And what Taylor is seeing now is something that I saw with Seb on my interview. Tingana was just chilling, doing his thing on Chitwa, and Hosana came in and did exactly that sort of behavior, except he had a drink. And for me, it was the first ever, and now it happened the other day, and it's happening again. So I don't quite know what else to say other than that is madness. But marvelous that you're able to view it yourselves. So, on a lighter note, for those of you out there who enjoy your flowers, I have put one underneath the microscope. I've put one of the morning glory flowers we find here under the microscope. And if we can go to that, look how beautiful that is. You can actually see the little yellow spots are the pollen. But you see those tubes that rise up and then bend down again. Those are actually the female parts. And you can see how the pollen is attached to them, and it's very likely pollen from another flower that has been brought in by an insect, be it a beetle or a bee or something like that. And they've now stuck to the female, the stigma and the style, and they'll go down those tubes, fertilizing and forming the fruit or whatever it might be inside the flower itself. I think that is absolutely marvelous to see. Isn't that a beautiful picture? Now, the flower looked a lot better about an hour ago, and I did pick this one. I do apologize for my poaching, but it is withered, and it doesn't look the same as it did when I picked it. So that is the state of our flower now. The leopards have dominated the scene this afternoon, and our poor flowers and plants are withering in the heat of the tent. Okay, so I wanted to show you something else under the microscope. It might take me a moment to have a look, but this is one of our very, very popular and common trees, the magic guarri. You can hear the crested franklin. He's making a noise. There we have the microscope, and there is the magic guarri. It's just trying to focus it. Sorry, folks. There we go. Now, when scientists look at plant material, they actually all have a unique signature under the microscope, and quite often what they can do is they can actually take the fecal samples of elephants or rhinos or whatever it might be, put it under the microscope, and they'll be able to find small particles that match signatures on leaves, just like you're seeing now, and then they can work out what's in the diet. So that is quite interesting. And what you can clearly see is the middle vein running down the middle, and then there's this sort of side lateral veins going off there. You can see it's almost like a web. It's called a network of veins, and that is what is very common in leaves of trees. But now if I put a grass leaf underneath, you'll see that it's got a very... Okay, well, before I show you the grass leaf, let's go back over to Kuchava, who is looking gorgeous.
Well, it's not Kuchava, but it is Shadaloo. They do look a little bit similar, so can understand why. Now, apparently Steve, I think, said Shadaloo, and Nick's got a bit confused with it, but she's just sitting on top of the most glorious mound in the most glorious light, having a little groom, and it is absolutely spectacular. We could not ask for anything better from her. I don't think so anyway. She's literally positioned herself in the best possible place for us to get a view of her kind of just being the queen of the west of Djuma at the moment. Look at that. There's afternoon golden light, termites, and a beautiful female leopard. There's very little more that you could ask for. Well, in my life anyway, there's little more that I could ask for. This is my happy place, is when I'm sitting like this with a leopard. So, especially in afternoon light, and the light is just going to get better and better and better and better as she kind of sits there. It's starting to get into that kind of gold coloration now, which is exactly what you want. So Soccerdash, no cubs yet for Xidulu. She's still a younger female. Remember, she's about 4 years old, so she hasn't actually had a chance to have cubs yet. She's kind of mated a little bit with Hukamuri, but so far no cubs as yet. And I'm excited to see when she does have them, or when she falls pregnant, where exactly she's going to den, because at the moment, she's pushing deeper and deeper and deeper into Djuma and spending more and more time here. Is that going to mean that she's going to choose a den site on Djuma? Will we get another leopard cub on this side, or more? You never know. She might have 2, she might have 3. It's going to be interesting to see. But how beautiful is that? Look at that. That is absolutely amazing. From one incredible sight, let's send you back across to Taylor with, well, the cheeky little Hosana and his dad.
I don't even know how to describe Hosana's behavior. He's hysterical. He is so funny. Well, he's bored now because Dad hasn't given him the reaction he wanted to. It's like he came over to rub it in his face and say, look how nice and clean my coat is. You should really focus on, grooming yourself. He's not obviously saying that, I'm just making it up. But Tingana's got his eyes closed. Doesn't care. Every now and then his tail twitches, but other than that, this is pretty amazing. And to see the entire interaction. What we will do though is hopefully the sighting is going to separate, because I know there's lots of people that want to go on safari, not go on safari, but want to see this. That's quite cool. I might do a quick little snap. I bet everybody's super excited to have a leopard walking right past their car. Amazing. Look at that, going right past, doesn't mind him. Now, Jeff Lau, this is the funny thing, is that this is not supposed to be happening. If you read all the books, they tell you that they don't do this. But of course, like I said earlier, well, the animals do whatever they want, when they want, and they like to show us up and make us look silly. It's like a leopard or a lion or any of the animals' favorite thing to do. So typically the male will pass through and obviously inspect his females. We've been talking about territories all afternoon, so as he goes through, if he picks up the scent on a female, he might bypass her, especially if she's coming into estrus, although then the females normally seek out the males. It's quite funny how that works in the world of leopards. And so he might interact every now and then while those cubs are young, but theoretically Hosana should have dispersed. He should have moved away from this area, but I think he's got lucky because of the change up at the moment. There's a few gaps that are around, which has allowed him to stay for longer. But like I said, Tingana's just a very relaxed male. He is so chilled. He's so cool. I'm thinking we might try and follow Hosana and leave Tingana. Let's go and do that. Let's try to turn her around quickly. I'll go after you. Cool. We're just gonna let surprise reverse and go and follow Hosana, and then we're going to do the same thing. Now, if the sighting does separate, it's going to be quite nice because it does alleviate some pressure. We were going to have to leave, but if Tingana stays here, it's a completely different story. We can now follow at least one of these cats, which will be quite nice. Right, but we are going to move around and try and get a better view of Hosana, just letting, of course, the guests have the first opportunity. Off we go back to Steve while we do a bit of manoeuvring.
Thank you very much for coming back to me. Would the cats just slow down and stop being so cool? No, I'm only joking. Okay, so I have got a comparison now for you, ladies and gentlemen, on the screen in front of me from the microscope, the difference between a grass leaf and a leaf of a tree. And we have got a beautiful leaf on the left of the Panicum maximum, and you can see the longitudinal sort of veins there. You can see it quite clearly, longitudinal veins. And on the left, and you see the little hairs versus the net venation on the right-hand side. Can you see the very difference? So as a scientist in fecal content of animals, you can see the browse versus sort of leaf component. That's how they're able to tell the seasonality of feeding with these animals. Obviously, you can go out there, you can spend a lot of time actually watching and observing. A friend of mine did studies on Cape Mountain zebra down in the Cape Mountain Zebra National Park, and they did a lot of this study on fecal analysis, but then you watch the animal as it feeds, and then you walk up to the grass itself and you identify what grass it is. And that's how science is done. That's how we know what we know, from people spending a lot of time observing and then taking the observations and then matching it with what they see on microscopes like this. And you can clearly see the difference between the grass and the leaves, and then over time you can start working out which species it is that they are actually focusing on. So quite marvelous. Well, let's go to Shadaloo this time, and Nix has finally given me the right name in my ear.
With Xidulu, and she is looking, well, stunning on top of this mound. There's no other way to put it, and the light on her is just magic. It is this kind of golden, peachy kind of light that she's got on her, and it is, well, one of those situations where you just sit and you actually admire the kind of beauty of what you get to see on a day-to-day basis. And the fact that we get to share it all with you guys is probably one of the best parts about it, is that she's sitting here and it's, you know, we have you guys all around the world with us watching that, and that's a very special thing. You know, it feels as though we're sharing a very kind of special moment. In fact, many special moments this afternoon. If you think of Taylor and what she's seeing, that's stuff that many people would write is impossible, and yet we have seen it with Tigana and Hosana how many different times where they just seem to kind of come together. And Tingana obviously is not that happy about it, but he tolerates her, and it's just an incredible thing. I mean, him, should I say, and tolerates Hosana, and it's amazing to me that he does. It's just incredible to kind of witness. So we've been spoiled, that's for sure. There's not really much else you can say. 5 leopards in a day is ridiculous. So Costa, not really. I mean, the leopard population in the area is pretty much the way that it was a few months ago. It's just that we've got so many new leopards, and that a lot of the females are currently having cubs, or currently have cubs. So, you know, we've got a situation where we've got Kuchava with cub, Tandi with cub, Shadow with cub, and then you've got Xidulu who's arrived on the scene. You've got a situation where we've got all these new young males. So we're just having a good run at the moment. We've really had a spectacular summer when it comes to leopards. We've been spoilt, and it doesn't always go like this. We don't always have these kind of sort of times and these purple patches where we get to see so many leopards the way that we're seeing them now. But look at her, she's glowing from this light. It is insanely good light. Yes, girl, you really do know how to pose. VM and I said following her has been like following a model on a fashion shoot. She just literally goes up onto branches and onto termite mounds, and everywhere that she can pose she does. It's pretty crazy. Yes, Joy, it does. So female leopard urine will smell just like the male's does. It will have that same pungent popcorn smell to it. So it's the same for both male and female. I don't actually notice a difference in the sort of pungency, if we want to call it, or the strength of the smell. It seems to be very similar between both male and female. This is good. It's very good. This makes me happy, and like I say, hopefully it makes all of you happy. I know many of you are leopard nuts like I am, and I'm not afraid to admit it, but we are being spoilt this afternoon with leopards, and so while we sit and admire Shadaloo, let's send you back across to, well, the curious Hosana and Tingana.
Yes, we're still with him. He's now moved away from Father Tingana, who is still resting up. I don't even think he's got his head up anymore. I can't see him because he's behind some trees. So we just thought we'd have a little look. I'm not sure how much pressure is now on the sighting. I would imagine the fact that there are two leopards together would change the dynamics quite hectically. So once another vehicle pulls into the sighting, we'll probably head on out and give some other guys a chance. We'll find out what the sighting, of course, is like. Everyone's just too far away, but we'll enjoy it while we can. But isn't this awesome? He's just sitting, listening. There's lots of game around here. There are lots of waterbuck, lots of kudu. I'm sure there's the odd inyala and bushbuck around camp too. Now, sort of, I don't know how I was going to try and start that. Sorry, let me try again. What I was going to say is that we've been watching Tingana resting for pretty much most of the afternoon, which has been quite cool. It's not my favorite thing to watch a cat sleep, though thank goodness for Hosana, bringing some action to the afternoon. So Gizmo, they can sleep for a long time, and especially after a big meal or a couple of attempted hunts, they're going to be using valuable energy. So sleep helps them, like it does to us. It helps us restore the batteries in order to keep going. And so lions sleep the longest. Lions sleep for 18 to 20 hours a day, and leopards will sleep just a little bit less than that, normally around anywhere between 10 and 15 hours. It just depends. I do find leopards tend to be a little bit more active than prides of lions. If there's cubs around, then unfortunately no one gets much sleep with both species of cats, with both leopards and lions, but especially with lions, because there'll be so many of them. They often terrorize the entire pride while everyone's just trying to have a nice little sleep. That's so cool. How cool is this? Do you think we should try and show them, Ferg? There's Reynard, who's the GM. Let me quickly reverse just slightly. I just want to show you how close we are. Look at this. I'll make it a bit easier so you don't have to do that. We're going to just quickly show you. Imagine sitting here. This was your room. And you'll see Reynard now. He'll probably wave. But there is the lodge. There's one of the rooms. And they're standing watching leopards from their deck. And they're probably going to have the leopards walk underneath the elephant wire to go and drink from the dam too. Pretty awesome, hey? Well, there we go. Definitely a place to add to your bucket list and to come and visit is Chitwa. And on that happy note, off you go. Back to Steve to see what he's doing in the tent.
Yes, thank you so much. I think that is incredible that the guests are able to see directly from their deck. And we are just outside the tent, and we've got a family of green wood hoopoes that are in the dead tree up ahead there. And they were cackling away a moment ago, doing their allomimetic behavior. Sort of the band chorus that sort of bonds them together. And there would not be an afternoon safari with me without a bird or two, so I could not help myself. Please do forgive me. But with this nice setting sun, the wood hoopoes are settling in for the night. They are probably still foraging behind the bark of that dead tree, looking for all sorts of grubs, beetle larvae, and whatever else might be sort of hiding itself there. And I'm hoping they're going to give us another display. And if they don't, I might play my phone to get them to display, because the noises that they make are really quite marvelous. Looks like they're grooming, so if they are grooming, that is what we call allomimetic behavior, not just allo grooming. The allomimetic behavior is the actual call that they do as a bond, sort of like a chorus, like cheerleaders, building each other up, keeping the bond strong, and then they will groom each other as well, so as to eliminate the ticks and the parasites that you might find on them. And what is very clear then, if you find birds grooming like that, is that it is not where they live. It's not their roost. They would not groom near a roost, because you're obviously going to throw the parasites onto the floor or onto the nest site itself. So they found a tree where they're doing some feeding, and they will deposit their parasite loads there. I'll try to find it for you, but they are really, really beautiful. You hear the crested francolins calling there. I'm just going to play the call, and let's see if they respond. They've responded by flying away. I have no doubt. I have no doubt they will respond to that in a moment. Here they